The nurse pulled the needle from the woman's arm. Everything looked routine until the lab results came back. According to the blood test, this woman did not exist. Her blood type had changed. Not because of a transfusion, not because of a clerical error, but because somewhere, deep inside her body, lived the cells of someone else entirely. Someone who was never born. This is not science fiction. This is documented medicine. And the discovery of what was happening inside her would rewrite our understanding of identity itself. Here is your question for tonight. What does it mean to be you, if you are also someone else? The year was 1998, Boston, Massachusetts. A 52-year-old woman named Karen Keegan sat in a hospital waiting room, clutching a pamphlet about kidney transplants. Her kidneys were failing. Her 3 adult sons had volunteered to be tested as potential donors. This should have been straightforward. A routine blood draw. A tissue matching analysis. A family coming together to save their mother's life. But then the genetics lab made a phone call that would turn Karen's world inside out. "We need you to come back in. There's been a..." The word hung in the air like smoke. Discrepancy. What kind of discrepancy? The lab technician's voice was careful, measured, almost too calm. "According to these results, 2 of your sons..." Silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums. Karen had given birth to all 3 boys. She had the photographs, the hospital records, the stretch marks still etched into her skin. She had nursed them, raised them, watched them take their first steps across her kitchen floor. And now, modern science was telling her she wasn't their mother. How do you argue with DNA? But here is where logic begins to crack. Because Karen was their mother. She knew this with absolute certainty. The hospital records confirmed it. Witnesses confirmed it. So either the tests were wrong, or something far stranger was happening inside Karen Keegan's body. The medical team ran the tests again. Same results. They brought in specialists, geneticists, hematologists, forensic analysts. But it gets worse. When they tested different parts of Karen's body, they got different DNA profiles. Her blood carried one genetic signature. Her thyroid tissue carried another. It was as if Karen Keegan was built from 2 different people. The doctors whispered a word rarely spoken outside medical textbooks. In Greek mythology, the chimera was a fire-breathing monster with the head of a lion, the body of a goat, and the tail of a serpent. 3 creatures fused into one impossible form. But human chimeras are not monsters. They are survivors. Let me take you back to the beginning of Karen's life. Before she had a name. Before she took her first breath. Picture this. A womb, dark and warm. Inside, 2 embryos float side by side. Twins. Fraternal. Each with their own DNA. Their own destiny. But something happens in those early weeks. Instead of growing separately, the 2 embryos drift toward each other. They touch. They merge. The cells do not reject one another. They integrate. 2 blueprints become one body. Here is where science failed to keep up with nature. For decades, doctors assumed this fusion was impossible. That the immune system would attack foreign cells, that the body could only carry one genetic identity. But the body, it turns out, is far more flexible than we believed. Karen Keegan was not one person carrying another person's DNA. She was both people. Her blood came from one twin. Her ovaries came from the other. This is why the DNA in her blood did not match the DNA she passed to her children. The eggs that created her sons came from tissues built by her vanished twin. A twin who was absorbed in utero, who never drew breath, but whose genetic signature lived on. Inside Karen, a twin who was, in the most literal sense, part of her. Now, you might think this is a rare medical curiosity, a one-in-a-million fluke. But here is what researchers discovered when they started looking closer. We have no idea how common chimerism actually is. Most chimeras never know they're chimeras. The condition causes no symptoms, no illness, no visible sign. You could live your entire life as two people, genetically speaking, and die never knowing. Unless, of course, a DNA test catches the discrepancy. Which is exactly what happened to a pregnant woman named Lydia Fairchild in 2002. When prosecutors tested her DNA against her children's DNA, the results said she wasn't their mother. The state accused her of fraud, of welfare scams. They threatened to take her children away. She was in the delivery room when she gave birth to her third child, with a court-ordered witness watching. They swabbed the baby immediately. The DNA still didn't match. It took months and Karen Keegan's case making national news for anyone to think of testing Lydia's other tissues. Her cervix told the truth her blood had hidden. She was a chimera too. So back to our question, what does it mean to be you? We tell ourselves that identity is fixed, that our DNA is a fingerprint, unique, unchangeable. Proof of who we are. But Karen Keegan carried cells from a sibling who never existed outside her body. Lydia Fairchild was nearly separated from her children because science couldn't recognize her. The chimera myth was about a monster. The medical reality is about something far more unsettling: the fragility of certainty. Every cell in your body tells a story. But sometimes that story has two authors. Two origins, two selves woven together so completely that even the most advanced technology cannot always untangle them. Karen Keegan's other self never had a name, never saw sunlight, never cried. But in a way, she lived in Karen's children. In their laughter, in the crinkle of their eyes. Medicine calls this a condition. Perhaps it's something closer to a ghost. Carried not in haunted houses, but in blood and bone. And here is the final twist that will keep you awake tonight. We do not routinely test for chimerism. Which means you could be listening to this right now, completely unaware that somewhere in your body, cells with different DNA are dividing, multiplying, living. You might be two people, and you would never know. If this story made you question something you thought was certain, you're in the right place. There are more mysteries where this one came from. Bodies that defy science, histories that defy logic, truths that hide in the spaces between what we think we know. Subscribe. The next story might be even closer to home.